You're listening to Brayzen Bookworm's Unrighteous Reading Rebellion, a reformed book snob's journey and musings through all things romance. Some language may not be safe for all ears. Frequent use of sarcasm may occur.
Recording in progress. Woo-hoo, we're all here and super excited to be here. So just going to welcome back everybody who has joined us for book club. And this week, the Stalker Sisters are book clubbing Meet Me in the Blue.
Yay.
And I have both because I have to have Amanda knows. So Amanda Johnson, A.M. Johnson, is joining us. She's the author of Meet Me in the Blue and many, many other of our favorite stories. And I have to have can you even see that? Julie will work her magic and put up a beautiful picture of the illustrated cover. And I have all the illustrated covers for the books I've read by Amanda, but I love this cover so much. I had to get the photographic cover too, because it is so perfect. It is stunning.
And I think once you read the book too, it makes a lot of sense of why I picked that photo. Yeah.
It really does. I mean, it is, you look at covers and you always say you want the cover to match the story. And honestly, that is one of the most perfect matches. Like in my head, that's the picture I had. And then when I saw the cover, I was like, holy crap, that's it. That's like the perfect cover. So see, here we go. The squirrels are already active and we're already at play. So
I love your squirrels.
The Stalker Sisters are welcoming A.M. Johnson, Amanda Johnson, to book club with us today. And we're talking about Meet Me in the Blue, which is the most recent book that Amanda has published. And we're going to do a real quick round robin about how we each found you, started reading you, a first book, and some quotes that we love from this. And then we've got some questions for you, but feel free to jump in anytime you want to, because this is all about you and your books. So first of all, thank you so much for being here with us, because it's hard to get people who are busy writers and have lives to come on and give up their time. So we're really appreciative of you giving up some time to chat with us about your book.
I'm honored. I'm sorry I was a little late.
Hey, we work on fluid time. I used to call it homeschool standard time, because homeschoolers are never, ever, ever on time. If I tell you I'm going to be somewhere at 12:15, I better leave my house at to be there at noon. But now I'm just calling it fluid time, because we're all adults and we have families and we have lives and jobs. And sometimes life demands things that we didn't build into the schedule. So it's all good. So let's talk real quick about how we found you. And I'm going to let Julie go first, because of the four of us, not including you, and the four of us that are here. Julie found you first. So Julie, how'd you find Amanda?
I was trying to think. I honestly think, I don't know, you'll have to tell me if you do this. Do you give away ARCs at times did you do that maybe?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think I won a copy of Let There Be Light.
Okay.
And I was like, I could probably go back on our messages, and I was messaging you like you knew who I was, like you cared, but you were going to listen to me. It was definitely powerful to me. So
thank you. I feel like sometimes I'm never going to write a book ever like that again. I feel like it's all been downhill from there. I'm just kidding.
No,
not at all. It absolutely is not.
It's a journey. It's always a journey, and
it's a journey
this way and all over. And so Let There Be Light is male, and it's new adult. And Julie, was that the first male book that you had read?
No.
Okay. So you were familiar with the subgenre.
I want to say April had just written Ruined, which is another author that we read, and she kind of broke my cherry with that one. I don't know. It was great.
Awesome. And I think I found Amanda next through Julie. And I remember this because I was like, I was looking for books to read, And it was one of those, I've reread all of the things I love, but I need something new. I need a new author. And Julie said, you have to read Let There Be Light. And I looked at it, and at the time, I was still relatively new to romance. And I was still teaching high schoolers and, young college age kids. And I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for a new adult romance yet. Whether it was male, female, whatever. I wasn't ready to dip my toe in that pool yet, because it was like, it was a comfort factor for me because that's what the kids I was
Right.
teaching. And she said that you have to read Love Always Wild. And I looked at that one and I went, didn't you? Or did you just say read something? You were like,
Well,
read something.
I have no doubt I said let there be light. That's what
did.
it was. And then you
Yes.
said no. Yes, Love
Right.
Always Wild would be the
Yes.
next one.
And she said,
Yeah.
read Love Always Wild. And I pulled that one up and I went, oh, writer. And oh, this is like way up my alley. So I read that, devoured it, and then just kept going through. I mean, as quickly as you were writing the For Him series, I was like, next, please, next, please, next, please. And because I couldn't get enough of style. And I think there was, when I read it, you had written Love Always Wild was out, and Not So Sincerely Yours was out. And I think you were writing Dear Mr. Brody.
I think so too.
And
When I met you in Philly, I was writing Forever Kona More.
that's what it was. Okay. And I
Mhm.
was like, but I needed something to read that was so I went back and read Let There Be Light
Mhm.
3 times, and then got the audiobook and listened to it multiple times, and kicked myself for not just listening to Julie and doing what she told me to and just reading it first, because it's astounding. And I have said this before. I know that's not the book we're talking about today, but I'll say it again. If I could go back to teach language arts classes, and they would
Mhm.
allow me to teach a class with books in the romance genre, Let There Be Light would be a standard that I would teach every single class, because
Thanks.
the language in it is powerful and stunning and poetic, and all your books are, but that one just hit different. And then I read the part 2 of the duet, and it was just even more of that.
Mhm.
It was just amazing. So thank you for writing those books.
Oh,
Maybe
thank you guys for being so kind. That was sort of an
someday.
experiment in figurative in writing for me. So it was a way for me to combine my love for poetry and storytelling together. And I just think it came out pretty okay. I hate complimenting myself, but I really do. Like, if you were to ever ask me which book I'm the most proud of, that'd be the book that I am the most proud of. I'm proud of all my book babies, but there's just something about Camden and Royal that I think for me it was the most, at that point in time in my life, it was the most truthful book I'd ever written, as far as personal experiences in my life, as well as the writing style I've always wanted to have. And it's hard to like maintain those two things sometimes when you're writing in a market that's very markety. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
No,
So
I know exactly what you're trying to say, and it is.
like I said, I wrote that book. There's sex scenes, there's open door sex scenes, but I literally don't use I don't use any like body part words. And I was like so proud of myself. And it makes it sound like it doesn't have like a heat factor, which I mean, it doesn't have a huge heat factor compared to like my For Him series, but I couldn't in my right mind give those boys dirty body parts because they were young, but at the same time I knew it needed to be open door. So I don't know. I
Yes.
have no idea if you were to tell me to write a love scene again without using the word, I don't know what I'm allowed to say on here, without using the C word for penis or, whatever, I'd be like, there's no way, but I did it. And I was just like, hey, I'm proud of this.
I was appropriate for their story.
Mhm.
I don't think there's that book, their story
Mhm.
was perfect. Like, I
It
don't think
was.
it was so much. I guess for me, growing up in a conservative Christian home,
Mhm.
it just, I felt so much
Mhm.
in that story. Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's I wasn't raised in a conservative home, but I was raised in the South, and I was raised in a very interesting home, which we won't go into today because you guys are not my therapists. But I don't know. That book for me was just sort of my own little way of coming out without coming out. And I just really, and then like I have a neurodivergent kiddo and being able to sort of put that into the story too. And I don't know, I just really like that book. It just makes me giggle because there's people who will, they'll like search the word, the C word for the penis in like their Kindles to see like if they want to read this book. And I'm like, you can say, I mean, I've done it sometimes too, when I'm like, all right, I need a good smutty book. I got to see how many times they say the COC word.
You can
Or whatever.
say whatever
And,
you want to on here, by the way. We put a
okay,
disclaimer at
thank
the
you.
beginning.
I
You
didn't
can
know.
say anything. We've dropped F-bombs. We've used different C
Okay.
words. There is a disclaimer that there is language involved. And if you don't want your coworkers to hear somebody say the word cock, you better not listen to this at work.
Okay, good. So yeah, there's people who will search the word cock in books. And I think that's so funny to me. But I mean, I've done it too sometimes. But I was just like, you will not find that word in that book. And it always makes me nervous that people won't give it a chance because of that. But it's okay. My boys don't like that word. It's fine. In that book. The rest of my books got cocks galore.
Yes, yes, they do. And but again, it's appropriate. You found the perfect blend for Let There Be Light of appropriate language and tone and intensity for those characters. They had exactly what they needed. And that's why that book works so beautifully. And I know, Ron, when did you find
I had to go back and look because I wasn't 100% sure which one was first, because I'm not obsessive about starting in the beginning of anything. And I actually, To Whom It May Concern was my entry point. And I'm trying to find, I should have done it ahead of time. I was trying to look at to see if I could find my review. What struck me about it was that it was beautiful. I mean, it was beautifully written. The language was elevated. All of those cool things that I looked for in books. But the thing that struck me the most was that the characters rang true to the people I live with, to the people that are part of my heart, and that there was no like reach to make it politically motivated or specifically correct or anything. It was just a love story. And that's the common theme I'm seeing in all of your work, is that you write love stories, and that the story isn't gender driven or orientation driven, it's heart driven. And that's powerful. That's not something that a lot of people who are writing M&M romances are doing, and you do it really, really well.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know. I try to just write a love story. I mean, I do think that it's important to definitely include, queer themes and queer books, right? But at the same time, at the end of the day, love is love, right? So that's what I try to do.
Right. And I don't, and I'm not discounting that, because I'm
no,
totally on that. But I think that there are M&M romances that bash you over the head as a political statement, and that there's a place for those. But when you're looking for a romance, when you're a fan of romance, finding someone who's writing those kinds of romances that are authentic and heart driven and all the feels, and also include queer themes,
right.
and also as opposed to that being the focus. And like I said, you do it really well.
Thank you
Absolutely.
very much.
Susie, how did you find Amanda?
I came into our group chat because she was a charm author, and I said I need to read a book by Amanda, and they all said Mimi in the Blue, and I was like, oh, I guess Mimi in the Blue it is.
So you've not read Let There Be Light? Is that what you're saying?
I have not. No.
yet.
Girl.
Susie, there's no cock in it. I'm sorry.
No cock. But lots of love and color and joy, and you can go back and forth. You can, if you really, really need some cock, you can go to for him, and then you can kind of go back and forth. But was Susie, I don't remember, was Maybe in the Blue your first MM novel?
It was, yes.
Yeah.
I
What'd
tried
you say?
other. It,
Did I
it
what?
was. Are you asking me to repeat the question, or did you not hear it?
Yes, repeat the question and answer, because I'm pretty sure I heard you, and I'm just verifying that I heard you.
It was my first MM novel.
Really? How did I not
Yes.
know this?
It
How
was, yes.
interesting.
Right on.
I
Welcome, welcome.
I have to say I've enjoyed it. Like Ron said, it was a love story, and I really enjoyed it.
yeah,
Yay. Thank you.
I love that. And I kind of knew that because Susie and I've had discussions of other authors that we read together that
Mhm.
have MM books, and she skipped them in the past because, again, it's not everybody's thing. It's not everybody's cup of tea. Totally get it.
Mhm.
And what the theme I kept getting from it was, there's a comfort factor, and anytime somebody reads something that's new, there's a comfort factor. And
Right.
when she said I need to read something by Amanda for Charm, I was like,
Mhm.
this is the perfect time for Meet Me in the Blue, because it was new,
Mhm.
but it was
Mhm.
also such a beautiful love story, and
Right.
it had so much depth, and there was more to it than just their relationship. It
Mhm.
was some very, very deep feelings that I think a lot of us have gone through in the past, as far as
Mhm.
um, there's elements of the story of friendship and moving and coming back, and family and parents, and being seen and finding out who you are, that everybody can identify with.
Mhm.
And like Ron said and Julie said, it wasn't about the fact that it was a male-male relationship. It was the
Mhm.
fact that it was a love story and how it developed. And I had a feeling, I kind of knew if Susie was going to read something, and then that it was going to be Meet Me in the
Mhm.
Blue. I just had that
Right.
feeling.
Well, now I want to go back and read Let There Be Light, because you guys all. So.
And the second book in that series is fantastic as well. So
Yeah.
I definitely think you should go there.
And Seven Shades is male-female, which is the
Mhm.
second part of the duet with Let There Be Light, which is another stunningly beautiful book and audiobook.
Mhm.
I listened to both Let There Be Light and Seven Shades kind of on a circuit, on a loop for a while, because they were so beautifully written and narrated. But yeah, Susie, I think you would definitely appreciate and enjoy those. So that's how we all found Amanda, going back all the way to Let There Be Light, all the way up to Meet Me in the Blue. And I love that we have this range of when we all came in on that.
And also too, I have MF stuff too, if you wanted to try some of that too, like just to I feel like sometimes people don't know that because my MF stuff wasn't as popular because it was, back in the day, but like Royal and Camden's, it is hailing outside. Is that hail or rain? I don't know. Royal and Camden's parents book is a book called Possession, and then he has some uncles that are mentioned in the book. So my Avenues Inc. series, which I'm also deeply proud of, is MF, if you prefer MF too. Just so you know.
I just learned something. I didn't know you had a book of his parents.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so Possession, his dad and mom are Possession. So his dad is Declan, and then his uncle is Liam. I don't remember if you in the book his uncle was kind of weird, not
Yes.
weird, but like going through trying to come to terms with the fact that his nephew is gay. That's Liam, and then Kieran is the ex-priest, and so Possession, Kingdom, and Poet is the O'Connell family and everything that they went through to be together. And so Let There Be Light is a spinoff of Declan and Paige's children. So yeah, and I actually had a plan at one point to try to write all the kids, but I just didn't feel like I was in that. I had to move on to something different. But I really, really love my Avenues Inc. series. It's also very heavy themed, has Declan has schizophrenia, and Poet deals with addiction, like getting over addiction. So yeah, it was like my heavier days. That I wrote that series in 2017, and it was a very dark year. But it's a good. I love that series though. But anyway, I'll be quiet now.
Add to TBR. That's
Right, exactly.
beyond
And it's
my.
all on audio too. It's all I
just
have
wrote it
all
down.
audio too.
I gotta go get,
So
yeah,
it's all
that's,
on audio.
audiobooks are my go-to now for going through backlist, and
Mhm.
because time now is spent on new stuff,
Mhm.
and backlist has really taken a back seat, unfortunately, in a lot of my reading. But I have found that audiobooks are like my joy in backlist reading, because
Mhm.
I don't need to have read it before. I used to, when I first started listening to audiobooks, I could only listen to audiobooks of books I've already read. But now
Mhm.
my brain has trained itself to listen to new stuff, which is
Mhm.
fantastic. And I'm going to go back and listen to all of those
Yeah, they're all
because
they're pretty decent narrators. I've got the girl who does Indy's voice in Seven Shades of You is Kelly in Kingdom. Teddy Hamilton does Poet. Um, Aaron Shedlock is in Possession. The girls are Tracy Marks and Aaron Shedlock are Possession, and then it's Samantha Summers and I can't. It's like Chris. Oh no, whoops! It's Rock Engel, in Kingdom, and then it's Teddy and Seraphine Valentine because Melissa is Mexican, so she had to have an accent. So, but yeah,
What's
okay.
the
anyway.
series called?
The Avenues Inc. series, Avenues Inc. Like there's a place it's about what's funny is I wrote it, it's based in Salt Lake City, and there's a place in Salt Lake City called the Avenues, which is like a really swanky place that would never have a tattoo shop. But it's basically about three Irish Catholic brothers who run a tattoo shop and
I love
in their
that.
lives.
I love that. And you're saying all my favorite names with those narrators. So
Yeah,
yeah.
there's a really great narrators, and I met Teddy Hamilton when he to circle back to Meet Me in the Blue. There's a character in Meet Me in the Blue called Ryan Hartford, but everybody calls him Rye. I think he's only mentioned for a minute, but he's going to get his own book. But we'll get to that in a second. But his dad and mom book is Sacred Heart, so I'm trying to like make an Amandaverse
I love
Oh,
that.
to where everything is
Amandaverse.
sort of like like if you've read all my things, you get it, and if you haven't, that's okay. You will one day, maybe.
Well, clearly I didn't know that they were from books in the past, so it works. Whatever you're doing works.
And I love that connection. I love when you can say, it's like, okay, I have fallen in love with these characters. And then the author's like, oh, but wait, there's
Oh, but
more.
wait, there's more.
Because, it's like you can go back and see their parents, or remember this little side character. They're gonna have their own little book here. And you've been doing that, weaving in with so many of the different characters, and it becomes this, it's not a necessity to know the For Him series to read Meet Me in the Blue
Right.
and Hemlock
Right.
Harbor. But there are these little pieces that you'll put in where it's like, oh, I know them. I love them. It's like a little family reunion.
Right. And that's kind of like, because I love that when I read books like I don't know if you guys have ever read the lkerSisters, but they're
Oh,
like that
yes.
too, where you just kind of, I just like being able to, like, with Nora's from that, Not So Sincerely Yours, and it's Luca's sister, and then Ron is from The Glow Up, and I just like to be able to have my own little world. Sometimes it gets
Yes.
confusing and I have to make sure I'm careful with timelines, but yeah.
Timelines are the devil. I am learning that
Mhm.
more and more through editing different things, especially when you get series deep or spin-offs, where sometimes I'm like, wait a minute, that's not right. And then it's like, okay, so I'm going to ask you, because I've asked other authors this. Have you ever like just said to your readers, just don't pay attention to the timeline, just take it for what it is, and this is the way it's going to be?
I haven't, but I know with the FU series that I did with the other authors, Eden Finley, she's so funny. The characters that are the main characters in her book in the FU series are the children of a couple from, I think, her fake boyfriend series. But anyway, she said to us, she's like, I'm totally gonna Bold and Beautiful these kids. Which I don't know if you've ever watched The Bold and Beautiful, but I grew up watching that stuff with my mom and my grandma, and I was like, oh my God, that's hysterical because it's so true, right? Like the 8-year-old will go away to like prep school or summer camp and come back and be like this hot 20-year-old.
Yes, 2 years later.
That was a
Yes.
long camp.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2 years later, and they're 20. So yeah, she Bold and
Yes.
Beautiful the kids, which I thought was really funny. But no, I generally don't, because I usually try to like never really say like what time it is, you know.
Yeah.
I try
Yep.
to be as vague as possible because of that. I did have to be careful with Nora and because Nora and Luca go to Anders and Ethan's wedding,
Right.
and so I had to make sure that that was not that. Yeah.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So
I
yeah,
do.
I had to make sure that the dad's untimely, you know, with the dad's diagnosis and how Nora leaves. That one was like I had to
Yeah.
be very careful with that. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And there is a difference sometimes, I think, when you can have vague timelines and you're like, look, it happened. I'm not giving you a date. I'm not giving you years.
Right.
I'm just giving you, so
Right.
there's a benefit to not working in solid timelines because
Right.
I'll be honest, I'm editing one now where there's like solid timelines, like dates, years and months. And we're going back through it going, oh wait, no, this is gonna change that, gonna change this. Wait, got it. And it's like over 12 or 13 books. So it's like,
Oh wow.
whoa.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Fortunately, the author has really good notes, but still, it's
good.
like, wow. But when you put a definite timeline on it, so
Yeah. My
yeah,
For
there
Him
we go,
series
little
had
rabbit
timelines
trail.
because of the emails. There was dates and stuff in the emails, so I had to be careful with that. And my biggest thing was when Nora went home, like when I started Meet Me in the Blue, I was gonna start it as when Nora came home, you know, from
Right.
but then I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't work because because
Right.
like I just had to so basically I had to fix it and just say that that is when her dad was like diagnosed and like not necessarily dying.
Right.
So I had to fix that, and I'm glad I did because that would have been a major blow.
It was,
So that'd have been like,
yeah.
oops, sorry guys, just pretend like I didn't screw up the whole series. It's fine.
But you did, you fixed it, you found it, you made it work. And
Yep.
that's part of the
Mhm.
author thing that I think a lot of people don't think of is that you think, okay, authors just write the words, but no, authors do research and authors follow timelines and authors have, uh, I always think of it like, the crime board where there's like stuff all over the walls and then the strings connecting all of it. And you're like wandering around
Yeah.
the room, ducking under stuff going, wait a minute, I'm going to follow this yellow string and it's going to tell me, okay, right, perfect. And then weave your way back. A lot goes into when you write a book like this, where it's interconnected. Meet Me in the Blue is the first book in Hemlock Harbor, but there's interconnections to your Amandaverse, other worlds. And it's not like I can just start here from scratch and we're starting brand new, so I can make everything up as I go.
Right.
That ability to weave things in is that takes a lot of talent. It
Oh,
really does.
thanks.
So,
Thank you.
we do want to talk about Meet Me in the Blue because that's kind of why we're here. But
Yes, I'm sorry. I get so
no,
sidetracked and I'm
no.
squirrely.
Have you met me?
I have, and I love your face.
I am so off the rails. That's why I thank God for Julie and Ron and Susie, because otherwise I'd be like, chasing
we
down
doing?
squirrels. Yeah, where are we? What are we doing? Anyway, so we do like to start with quotes also because
Okay.
it kind of leads into different scenes. And instead of saying, what was your favorite scene? It's like, what was your favorite quote? Something that's very specific. And Susie, you had two and they're short, but I love them. And I'm going to make you go first.
All you can do is trust in the people who love you, no matter what, to be there for you when it hurts the most. You have that. You have so many people who care about you.
Yeah.
Am I reading?
Go ahead and read the second one.
I'm not leaving. Not again. This is my home.
And yeah, see, I know. I think that goes to the whole part of it of home. What
Mhm.
defines home? And there's a lot of that in Meet Me in the Blue of what defines home. Ooh, I'm sorry, I just got chills. Ron, you're next.
Okay. This is what I'd always wanted. This delicate intimacy, these everyday moments where we couldn't stop touching each other. And there didn't have to be an ending. I could be like this with him. Hands on skin, and how was your day, and lips that tasted like sweet mint, and never feel unsatisfied. We'd fallen in love sometime between then and now, between the pages of our youth and climbing trees, and the touch of his hand in mine, and the heartache of missing each other. That's just beautiful.
It is so beautiful.
It's back to the language, just painting that picture and the
Mhm.
emotion that's in it and the depth. There's not a bad quote in this book, so picking these was hard.
If I could find one.
Nope. I dare you.
That one that Ron had said, that one's like a very, I don't know, a very personal quote too, because I feel like it takes a long time to really understand who you are as a person. And I wanted to sort of like put that in the book a little bit, because Rook is kind of like me in a way, because my whole life I knew that, you know, I wasn't like everybody else, I guess, in a sense. So, and it took me a really long time because, you know, when we were younger, we didn't have labels, we didn't have things like that. At least I didn't. And I knew that I was attracted to both genders, and I just, you know, kind of kept that to myself for a really long time. But the thing was is that even though I was attracted to both genders, I struggled still with sexual attraction. And I didn't know why until I was much older, because, you know, demisexuality and the ace spectrum and things like that weren't readily available to, I mean, I didn't have the internet until I was in my 20s. Do you know what I mean? So like my early 20s. So like it was just, writing Rook was sort of a, oh God, I can't think of the word. My head is like not with me today, but sort of like a when you're like doing like a project of self, I guess. That's not what I want to say,
It's
but
a little bit
yeah,
cathartic.
Yes.
I mean, I think
yes.
that for me, reading it was cathartic
Mhm.
because, like you, I grew up in an environment that didn't have language for the way people loved,
Right.
at least not inclusive language for the way people loved. And
Mhm.
I think that's what pulls me into your books, is that that you, and I hate the word normalize because it is normal, but
Right.
that it just, all of a sudden there's a space for the rest of us.
Right. Right. And I think too for women, and I won't like get too in depth of this because I could talk about this for days, but I took this class while I was in college called Queer Studies, and it talks about queer theory and like fluidity of sexuality and stuff. And women, there's this like really cool research article, and if you guys ever want to read it, I'll send you the link. But it
Please
talks
do.
about women and how women as they age become more sexually fluid in a way, because the way we love is different. And I thought it was really interesting because I don't know, I just think over time with like, I don't know, I just related to Rook in a really good way. And I wanted to be able to write that space, because I think there's a lot of us out there that, you know, we are attracted to who we're attracted to, but it's not always this like, you know what I mean? Like this, I don't have to be super sexual to be in love with somebody. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And so I think a lot of us as people struggle with that, and they don't understand themselves. And it was sort of like, this was sort of like a, I can't think of the word right now. Not a project of self, but that's what I'm going to go with, because the word is totally not with me right now.
No, there's an introspective part to it where you say, I identify with this, and it becomes, and it becomes authentic in your writing. It's not like you
Right.
have to research to know how that feels. You
Right.
know how it
Right.
feels because it's authentic and genuine within yourself, and it comes across on
Right.
the page in the words that you use, where people are reading it and they don't feel like they're reading a research paper. You know, you feel like you're reading someone's emotions and someone's
Right.
thoughts and someone's um yeah, the words are a weird thing, you know, and you try to find one word that means something, and you can't, because language is fluid also. And as you
Right.
start to create characters and you start to create situations for them, and you pull more from your background, the words don't have the same meaning anymore. You
Right.
know?
Mhm.
And I think that there's a level of intimacy on the
Yes.
page that's different from other romances. You know, you can say, yeah, it's a steamy romance, and yeah, that's there, but there's also the deep intimacy, non
Yes.
not sexual dependent
Right.
intimacy that
Right.
is in the passages, like the one in, like my quote is that yes, it's about hand holding and touching skin, but it's also about all of that depth of interconnectedness that
And how well they know each other. And
exactly, and
Yeah.
all of the levels that are, like, for me, I have to be mentally and emotionally attached to somebody before those other things work for me. So
Yep.
100%. That's
see that on the page where it belongs is it's
Mhm.
refreshing to me.
Yeah.
I'm 100% the same way. And I wanted to write that. And I'm so glad that it came through, because I feel like, especially like, if you are married and you've been married for a long time, and it doesn't matter who you're married to, boy or girl, or non-binary or whatever, you know, I think you have to have that connection in order to, like, you can't, sex is only sex for so long, you know what I'm saying? And it doesn't always, it's not always the thing that keeps people together. And it's not always the thing that brings people together. I'm the same way, where I have to really, really have had those other types of intimacies and know a person before I am able to get to a point where I trust that person with my body. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of how Rook was, in a way. And that's what I was hoping that came across. So I'm glad that it did, because I know a lot of times readers hate flashbacks, but I thought it was so important for flashbacks to be in this book, because I don't think the readers would have understood how these two guys were already in love with each other before they even, like, kissed for the first time. You know what I mean?
They were in love
So
before they knew they were in love.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
that emotional intimacy, that soul level connection,
Like it started in the, like,
oh, much more real. And I gotta say,
first pages.
yeah, I have no problem with
it's about
flashbacks
that.
when they're done right. And the flashbacks of Meet Me in the Blue are amazing. The way part of it's the format, part of it's the language. Like, there is a distinct difference between the language that you use in the flashbacks and the language that you use in the present. And it's almost like the flashbacks are seen as a dream sequence, where they're very fluid, and they're very they're the figurative language in them, and the way that you pull the scene together is very different from the narrative in the
Sorry.
current. Did you? I was watching them go across the back screen. Families, but it really was a very different feeling for me with the flashbacks. And for me, it was absolutely essential that they be there, because this wasn't the kind of book where you could say, I'm going to start when they were kids and take you all the way through when they're adults. But there was no way to understand what they were dealing with as adults without knowing what they went through together as kids.
Well, yeah, and it starts. I went and looked. It's like page 12. My fingertips tingled like I'd sat on them too long, and I reached for his hand. Rook looked down at our tangled fingers, his lopsided grin appearing again as I said, I guess we'll both be loners together. And that you specifically the imagery of hands touching together, and that you bring that back to the adult relationship. It's like layers of this is the moment, like their first meeting, they had that tingly connection that was pervasive, and I just like it.
Thank you.
More chills. Julie, your quotes.
I think this is Rook talking. And stop apologizing, he grumbled and started to walk again, his big stride faster than before. You only have to say it once, otherwise sorry becomes just another word and the entire point of it is lost. And I feel like as everyday people, how many people have used that word and you do realize you like it's like that doesn't mean anything anymore. Saying
Mhm.
sorry without any action is worthless. And I
Right.
guess that's why that it's not very deep, but
No,
anyway.
what's funny about that is my husband calls me a pathological sorrier because
Mhm.
I say sorry all the time and I don't know why I do it and it makes me crazy and I try like hard to not do it because I say sorry for things I shouldn't even say sorry for and it's like at that point like I say it so much that it doesn't even matter if I say it. You know what I'm saying? So I try
Right.
really hard to not do it and so that was sort of me being like, see, he's right.
Yeah.
Because
Sometimes
it's
it's
true, like
easier to
especially
see it
when
in
somebody
someone
passes
else.
away, like I mean, how many times do we hear that? You know what I mean? Like, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And it's like you know that people are meaning well and you know that people are trying to help you, but at the same time it becomes sort of grating, you know.
My second quote is he broke, and it's part of a sentence. I probably should have went back.
Mhm.
He broke through all the gray and showed me how amazing touch could feel, how a kiss was supposed to taste, how losing yourself and letting go wasn't a functory obligation, but vivid fireworks in a clear sky.
I
Thank you.
love the imagery in that quote.
Exactly.
I love the mixture of the senses. I love the
But I
depth.
think that's why Amanda is so amazing. If you looked at every single review, I've got something about your writing and how beautiful it is and how poetic it is, which coming from me is, I mean, that to me, it's amazing. Like for me to like see that on page and feel it.
Thank you.
There's
Like
a
right now I just
layer.
want to be like just like
There's a layer to the language that is different from the typical story. And there are writers and authors and storytellers, and everybody brings their own thing to the page, whether it's their experience, um, again, their authenticity that they bring to the page. There is something in the language that you bring into the books that makes them different. And that's not a bad thing. Everybody's like, oh, different is, not a good thing if you want to do this, that, or the other thing. But you have to set yourself apart somehow. And
right.
to me, the way that these books are set apart, the way your writing is set apart is in the language itself, not in the story. Because,
Right.
I know people have said this before, it's that every story has already been told. It's just how you
Right.
tell it. And
Mm-hmm.
it's, for some people, it's their use of, language that shocks. And for other
Right.
people, it's use of language that soothes. And then
Right.
language that builds
Or
a
like good
picture.
banter, you know, like I love writers who
Yes.
can do really good banter and make you laugh. And I always I try not to read reviews anymore because they hurt me. But I whenever I get a review that's like, oh, she's too flowery or oh, she's all purple prose, I'm like, thank you.
Yes.
You. Sorry you don't like that, but I will always tell people I always border a little too purple, but that's okay.
We've had this discussion before that when I read your writing,
Yeah.
I see purple, and
Yeah.
purple's my favorite
Because it's
color.
purple
So
as hell.
I'm not gonna, but I am never gonna turn that down because that's where my soul lives too. So people read my
Right.
reviews and they're like, the hell is she talking about? That happened today. Where they're like, I had to use Siri to figure out what that meant. And I'm like,
This is me.
but
that's why I think I don't know. I have read books and I'm like, what the F are they saying? What are they trying to
Right.
tell me?
I'm
Where
sorry.
you I'm sorry.
See?
sorry.
Where
Okay.
your language makes sense, even though it may
Right.
be flowery, it
Mhm.
makes sense. what do you say, Michelle? Because Michelle's my word fluffer. Um,
Purposefully purple.
It's purposely purple.
you show, not tell. What is it that you
Right.
say?
Yeah.
And I
Show me,
feel
not
like
tell.
you use those words to like put us in there.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, you
I
That's-
really
feel
do
like
try
you're
not
in
to
the
be too purple,
scene.
because sometimes purple can be a little like, what the hell are these people even saying? Like, you can tell they're trying to be obtuse. And it's like, or like using weird imagery for things that shouldn't be. Like, I read something the other day and I can't remember what it was. And I was like, this is the weirdest ass analogy I've ever heard in my life. But I mean, I got what they were saying, but it was almost like they were trying
Trying
to
too hard.
be
Yes.
right. And
Yep.
but and I don't know, maybe I am too, but like I always hope that I always tell people I am a little I just like, I walk the line of purple, and that's okay, you know.
But it
That,
Okay.
paints
I
a
mean,
picture.
Time out.
yeah.
Please
Okay.
explain purple. What are we talking
Okay, so
about?
purple prose is a way, like it's actually not a good thing. Like, people, like in literary terms, people like purple prose can be, I'm not good at definitions. I'm gonna look it up really quick and tell you the definition. So purple prose, okay, prose that is too elaborate or ornate.
Yeah.
So I feel like sometimes I can get a little purple, like I can get a little too ornate, but I don't think so. Like, I don't feel like I ever use language that's too much. I mean, maybe I do.
See, purple prose
Maybe
to
I
me
do. I don't know have you guys ever
is
read Amy Harmon? Ever
no.
read Amy Harmon?
Mm-mm.
Okay, you should read Amy
I
Harmon.
should.
So
Yes, I know.
I think she's a little purple, but that's okay. But it's a good purple. You know what I mean? Like, she also walks the line of purple, or like the Shatter Me series is really purple. I'm trying to think of like examples of purple prose, but
So, yeah, for
I don't
me,
know.
when I
I
think of
guess
purple prose, I think of it's like you're reading it and it's so much. It's so much where you're like, okay, I could have lost 30 of those words and still understood exactly what they were saying
Right.
and kept
Right.
going. And the reason
So
I
here's
don't
an
think,
example.
yeah,
Oh, so go ahead.
no,
Okay,
go
it just
ahead.
says that this is an example on the internet. It says the mahogany-haired adolescent girl glanced fleetingly at her rugged paramour, a crystalline sparkle in her eyes as she gazed enraptured upon his countenance.
yeah,
That's not
Yes.
nope,
purple. No, yeah,
The
that's
last,
purple. So I guess
Julie.
I'm not purple.
nope,
Maybe
nope.
I'm not purple,
You're not.
because I feel like
Because
half of those things could go. You know what I
right,
mean?
exactly.
Yeah.
Purple prose, true purple prose to me is like when I was teaching high school and I'd be reading a paper that they wrote and I'm like, dude, if you had just come to me and said I can't write 5 pages, I would have just said just write 2 really good ones instead of 5 pages where you use the thesaurus for 60% of your word choice. You know, it's where you can take it and I think back to like Dickens when they were like writing by the word and getting paid by the word. So every word they put in there, if there wasn't one adjective to describe a noun, there were 10. And then it was
Right.
like just carried on and carried on. I don't see that with you because every word you
Yeah,
use is essential to creating the picture and
that's true.
setting the
So maybe
scene.
I'm more lyrical than purple.
Yes, you are
Lyrical.
100%
Okay.
lyrical.
Okay, I
Yes.
will
Lyrical
never
is a
call
good
myself
word.
purple again.
But and I think that you're not excessive in your language. And your choice of language is elevated in a way that it's if it were truly purple, it would be your book would be twice as long as it is.
That's true. That's true. It'd be 100,000
You're
words, right?
you're concise. Your storytelling is dialed in. It's not, am I ever going to finish this chapter?
Right.
It's
Okay.
elevated. It's the language is used in a way that's elevated so that yes, it's beautiful and it's poetic, but it's not
Over the top, hopefully.
Yes. Yes. It's
because
lyrical.
to tell the same story without the poetic language, you'd need twice
Mhm.
the book
Right.
because you paint pictures.
Yeah. Big time.
I think for me, which they'll probably smack me later, but I'm not an educated person. So for when I can
I'll
read a
slap you now.
book and not have to stop and think, what in the hell did she say and why and how many times do I have to read it to figure out why?
Right.
You know, I to me, it's just, you are easy to read, but it's beautiful.
Okay. Well, thank you. That's good. That's my goal. So yay.
I
Yeah,
love that word
I do.
elevated.
Thank you. I don't know. I always, those who know me know that I worry about everything way too much. And I always think the worst of myself. And then, like you said, as authors, we go and we read reviews and you'll see something like, oh, she's purple, or oh, she's too flowery. And we take that internally. And then of course we bring it to our beds and we bring it to our typewriters, and we try not to do that. But at the end of the day, I just have to write how I write. And I usually will not do more than 3. I don't know if you've ever noticed this about my writing, but I'm like addicted to threes. So I have to say things in threes. I don't know why. I feel like it flows better if there's 3 things, and I love the word and joining those 3 things. And that's the way I write. And so I can't stop myself from doing it. I've tried, like this book that I'm writing right now, I've tried very hard to like break that, but that's just my style. I can't stop it. I just can't do it. I'm not gonna say sorry for it either, damn it.
That is
Okay.
actually a thing. That is actually, when I was back in college and they were teaching us all about writing and how people write and, things and cadence,
Mhm.
that is actually a thing that is ingrained in certain people's heads and certain people's writing,
Mhm.
that the cadence comes in that it's a waltz. So if you think that some
Right.
people write in twos, it's like 4/4 time in music. Some people write in a
Mhm.
waltz where it's that 3-part
Right.
cadence. I'm the
Yes.
same way. They get tired of me in my reviews. It's always like, and this and this and this. And they're like, couldn't you just stop? I'm like, no, because the cadence in my head says it's
Right.
unfinished until I get to that 3rd piece.
Right.
But that continues the cadence in your story, and it continues the
Mhm.
pace, and it continues the picture, and it builds the intensity, and it's part of who you are. Don't try, okay, here's the teacher coming out. Don't try to stifle what comes naturally. When
Mhm.
it's natural like that, it's intentional, and
Right.
it will feel unfinished if you don't
Yeah,
follow that
it does.
cadence.
It really, really does. I was literally writing last night and I was like, I couldn't think of a third. And I was like, I guess I could just leave it here. And then I literally stared at it for like 5 minutes because I was like, I can't leave it here. I must find a third.
I I write notes and I'm like, and it's delicious and decadent, and then I can't think of a third, and I do little asterisks, and I'm like, I gotta come back to this later, and then I'll keep going, and then I'll come back, and I'm like looking up D words, and like, oh, don't Google D words,
I was like, don't do that.
But it is waltz-like, and the waltz-like is the right descriptor,
Yeah,
and that's there is that cadence to the story and to the stories, and it moves you forward and holds you into the story because you're a partner in that dance. And I think that's
I like that.
not
I like
something that you
that.
should that's not something you should fight.
mm-mm,
Right.
There are other books that aren't that. But if
Right.
you can write that, why wouldn't you?
right.
Right. Well,
Please
thank you.
don't.
I like that. I'm gonna say from now on, you guys are not my readers. You guys are my partners in my dance. I love
Yes.
it.
Thank you.
And don't change your writing. I'm
I
telling
won't.
you.
I always try to, and then I don't. And that's why I've only written 10,000 words since I put out Mimi in Blue. Because I'm just like in this weird headspace of my writing, and I need to get back to it. But that's a story for another day.
Well,
But
hopefully this will help you get back to whatever. And
Yes,
stop reading reviews. You know
right.
better
Right.
than
If you
that.
want
I don't
this,
anymore. I don't.
Good.
I haven't read a review. I actually deleted Goodreads from my phone. I will sometimes like I'll get on my computer when ARC reviews come out, because I feel like my ARC readers are more like kind of like, I know they're not going to totally like hate it, because I know some of my ARC readers, like from my ARC team and stuff. But even so, even if I get like a critical review from an ARC member, it's usually something that I'm like, okay, I can see that. I can see that. You know what I mean? But like once the book is out in the wild, no. Because actually sometimes it is kind of not fun. I would never use the word fun, but interesting, because you read things that people loved about the book, and then those same people who didn't like, who give you a bad review, it's the thing that this person loved but they hated it, or like the thing this person hated they loved. And it's like, and it's just like, it just sort of comes down to the thing is, you cannot please everybody. Everybody will read a completely different book. It's like when you go into a museum and you look at a picture on the wall or a painting on the wall, some people are going to be like, oh my God, that's so beautiful. And some people are going to be like, that's splatter. I don't
Right.
understand it. You know what I mean? So
Right.
it's like, and that's okay. And their opinion is totally valid. You know what I mean? Like everybody's going to read their own interpretation of it. Like I had a review once when I was for Brody that like blew my mind, because I was like, how the hell did they get that? How did they interpret that from what they read? But I was like, I mean, they're entitled to their opinion, but that's wild. You know what I mean? So
I started to call those the baby food reviews because, okay, hear me out. I've read those reviews where I'm like, did they read the book? What the hell? How did they, okay, you know, like when you have an infant and it's like you feed them peas and it doesn't come out looking anything like peas. So it's like, how did they input this book and come out with that review? Somewhere in the mess of them processing it, they missed the plot. They didn't understand the assignment. They whatever, and they turned bright green spring peas into yellow mushy goo. It's like, how did you do that? And I do want to like sometimes say to someone, what did we read the same book? Because
and I feel like sometimes you really don't, because I think there's books that people absolutely love and adore out there that I've read and been like, what in the actual hell did I just read? But look, you know what I mean? And that's okay. And so like, but yeah, that's why I have really honestly, truly stopped reading reviews, because sometimes people get, I get very like impassioned when I'm upset about something that I've read, but I usually like tell my friends. I don't put it out for the world to see, but I get it. And so I try, because readers at the end, like, I think it was TJ Klune that said it, and I absolutely adored, but he said this because it really helped me. He said, and if you haven't read him, you should. He said, once you put that book out and you've published it, it doesn't belong to you anymore. It belongs to the reader. And you can sit there and try to defend it all day long, but it doesn't matter. Like you made it, it's your book, sure. But once you put it out there, it doesn't belong to you anymore.
Yep.
So just step away and move on. And so I'm just like, all right. So I kind of try to do that now. Because he's right. Because once it's out there, I can't control how people see it or read it. And I'm never going to change anybody's mind. And that's okay. I just can only hope that people receive it.
I think readers too, depending on what's going on in their life, their mindset can mess up what they get out of a book or how they perceive the book. So
absolutely.
There's been times where I've had to read a book where I've had to like put it on pause for a second, because I know that I'm going to like it, but I'm not going to like it right now. Like right now, I'm kind of going through some like stuff in my life. And so there's no way in heck I could read a rom-com right now. I would be like, this is the dumbest crap on the planet, even though it's probably 3 months from now, I'm going to pick up that same book and be like, this is the best book I've read ever. You know what I mean? So yeah.
We bring something different to it, and you have to be in the right space of mind and the right time in your life. And Mimi in the Blue is a deep story. There's tragedy in it. It's not, yes, there's a happily ever after, but there's a lot to go through to get there. And for someone who has maybe just lost someone in their family, this may not be the book for them to read right now, because the emotional intensity of it may just be too much. But on the other hand, for someone else who's just lost a family member, it may be very soothing and cathartic, and we all bring something different to that experience.
Right. And that's why I put the content warning, because I know, and I didn't want to just put survivorship or grief. Like I wanted to make sure that they knew it was a death of a parent, because it's just so specific, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And so, and especially I think in the blurb, I mentioned that he comes home because his father's health is declining. So like I wanted the reader to know that they weren't going into just this simple, oh, his, parent died. Like you're going to watch that process. And, and that was important that the reader knows that, because you're right. Like there's some people who have just lost their parent. I mean, we're all of an age now that we're losing our parents to hospice, you know what I'm saying? Or grandparents or whoever, And so I wanted to make sure that was known, because you never know. Like somebody, like you said, could pick up Meet Me in the Blue right now and absolutely hate it. But then maybe a year from now, after they've processed their own grief, find, comfort in it.
Yeah. And the quote that one of the quotes I chose is by his dad. And it says, the point of this entire story is that love isn't easy. Love is sacrifice, son. It hurts. It's messy. and shit, it will tear you up. And the risk of sounding like one of those greeting cards your sister loves to torture us with, I have to say it's worth it. Love is worth every single hurt it gives. It's worth it because it's fucking living and you deserve to live. And the power behind that message from father to son, from someone who's nearing the end of their life. Wow, I'm sorry. I just it's there's so much in that right there that is transcendent and emotional, and having that come from a father to the son. And he's telling him the story of how he met his mother, and it's not there's more to what they always thought, so
Right.
it becomes this way of him passing down information, family information, but also of him passing along wisdom. And sorry, I had to sit with that one for a little bit.
No, it's that, like, I just thought that was so important because a lot of times, and like I don't want to discount that father and sons. I just feel like, I don't know. I just like I lost my father, but it wasn't in that way, and me and my dad didn't get along. But when I lost my grandfather, it was very, very hard for me. He was on hospice and things like, and so I went through that with him, and he had dementia and Alzheimer's and stuff. So when he left, it was really, really hard. But I just think it's important. Like, sometimes I just think in books, especially when it's about the queer community, parents, and like when I say this, I'm not discounting this because I will probably, there are a lot of parents who are not on board with things they should be on board with, And so with this book, I wanted to really just hone in on the support that I think we need to see more in the queer community as well, but also just between fathers and sons. I think in general, the relationships between fathers and sons are very special, but can also be kind of toxic. And so I wanted to show that you don't always have to have these roles in a certain way, that you can still show your son how to love. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if I'm saying
Yes.
this.
No.
And show
I should have probably taken it.
emotion.
Yeah, it's okay to be emotional. It's okay to love because you don't have to hide from it, because that's what they're the males in our society sometimes are told, And so I was trying to show that that relationship can also be this way. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And it was, as you read through the book and you see what their relationship is, and you see not just the relationship between Rook and Luca, but the relationship between the parents and their children and the families, because they're neighbors and they're coworkers and they're best friends. And there's more than just this, he's the boy I've always loved. It's the families are close. And it's not just a
Right.
loss for the children, it's a loss for
Right.
the families. So
Right. Mm-hmm.
having this moment for me between Luca and his dad, I lost my dad, oh my gosh, 20 years ago. Yeah, 20 years ago, suddenly. So I never had this moment of,
Right.
that connection type of, as they're passing on that wisdom because they know that they only have a limited time to pass the wisdom on.
Right.
Seeing that, reading that, but knowing that the intention was for comfort, because when you lose someone, everyone wants to comfort you,
Right.
being comforted by the person that you're losing, there's an extra level of emotion and intensity there.
Right.
And
it's like even in his last days, he had to be the parent. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think Luca felt that it's almost like, you hate to say he gave permission, but
Right.
he did. It was that you have to follow your heart. You have to do what's good for you, but you have to understand that it's not a straight line journey, that you're going to hurt, you're going to be miserable, you're going to deal with loss, but at the end of all of it is this ultimate goal of love.
Right.
And that's powerful, really powerful. And geez, it's okay. I know we're like, I could talk to you guys about this for like ever and ever and ever, but
I'm sorry.
Don't stop that. No. Do not apologize for being so awesome that we want to keep talking to you.
Exactly.
I did have this other really quick quote that I really do love. I'm just going to say really fast, and then we're going to do some really fast questions. I love this one too. He said, "He was made for me, and I was his too. I knew that now, knew it as well as I knew my own way through my house with the lights off. The way I knew he had changed, but he was still my home." That there's that imagery of knowing something so well. We all know that with the lights off in our home, we could find exactly where we needed to go. And that he was they were such an integral part to each other that they didn't need to be led. They just knew how to find it. It took them some time, but once they figured it out, it was like, bam, it's home.
Right.
I think we actually covered even most of the questions we were going to ask you. I think we've like talked through throughout. But Julie, you had that first one. I do want you to ask the first one you had up there.
What was your favorite scene or part of the book to write?
I really loved writing the flashbacks. That I think for me was probably my favorite part of the whole book. I love writing that age. I love writing I loved writing like watching them fall in love in a way that you wouldn't normally, like they're just scenes, right? But you can see them falling in love in these scenes and they don't know it. I mean, Luca knows it, but Rook doesn't know it. So it was really cool to sort of put those scenes in with the chapter that they were in and sort of have Rook look back at those scenes too and be like, oh my gosh, like this has been going on forever and I just didn't realize it. So for me, I really loved writing those flashbacks.
I love that.
Yeah.
And Ron had a question on the opposite side of that.
Oh, what was the hardest part?
The hardest one was probably, I know you guys are probably expecting me to say the dad's death, which that one was probably number 2. That was a hard one for me. But I think the hardest one was the first love scene that they have together, that first intimacy scene, like physical intimacy, because I always struggle with sex scenes because I just feel like, because of me as a person, physical touch is not important as much as like, you know, sitting down and snuggling and talking. So writing sex has always been hard for me. So I think for me, it was there. I wanted to make sure that it was true to life and as realistic as possible without being overly sexual. Because I think for a person like Rook or a person like me, that first time is so vulnerable that when you're finally letting yourself be a part of something like that, it can become, I don't know. I just wanted to really like make sure I honed in on that and it didn't make it just another sex scene, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's not salacious by any stretch. I mean, I think that it's very balanced.
I'm smiling so much because I'm thinking in my mind, you have this way of writing sex scenes that are not about sex. And I love that because it's so much more about the intimacy and the emotion and the connection and the passion. And it's less about the act. And it's just, it flows with everything else that you write. It's just so balanced.
It's like their hearts and souls go forward and they drag their bodies along for the ride. And
exactly.
Isn't that the way it's supposed to be?
Yes. I like that. That is definitely how I feel. I just always feel like I ask Michelle because she betas for me, but I'll always, like when I'm writing a sex scene, I'll always tell my beta readers, I'm like, tell me if it's a terrible, is it not? Because I'm always nervous it's going to sound choppy because I don't love to talk about the physical part of it. I like to talk about the emotional part of it. And most of the time there's not a lot of like, I know, and I like dirty talk just as much as the next person in books, but like my books never have the characters really talking a lot. So I'm always nervous that did I have them check in with each other enough? I don't know. Sex scenes are my nemesis.
But I hear that from a lot of authors.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Because there's only so many ways you can write the P and V and or P and P, you know, it just
yeah.
So you, in my opinion, But the difference is the emotion that each
You go.
author puts into it.
And your stories lend themselves to the emotion. And that would, a really graphic sex scene would feel very out of place in a lot of your books. Very forced. Yeah, because it's almost like, you know, you would take a piece and cut it and put it in. It doesn't match the flow of the tone of the rest of the story. So for me, I love getting to your sex scenes because I'm like, I'm going to get the emotion. It's going to be the intensity and the emotion and the passion and everything, the connection. And that's the life of the story for your characters, is the intensity of the passion and the connection.
In Meet Me in the Blue, that is 100% authentic to those characters. But you didn't have any problem bringing this demon to whom it may concern. That was pretty on the page.
Yeah, no, I have I definitely like once they're there, I can't, once it's there, I can put it on the page. I just don't like to.
But that was authentic to those characters.
Exactly.
I think that you couldn't write those kinds of scenes. I mean, that in your face. Not that they were in your face, but that they were two different characters, and you write authentically to the characters that you're writing. So whether you hate it or not, you do it well.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah. I think I think when I wrote, I think it was Not So Sincerely Yours, there's a scene, and I had never written, or did I can't remember if I did in Love Always Well, but I remember I was very it was a much more explicit scene in Not So Sincerely Yours about, I don't even like to say the word out loud just because I hate talking about sex stuff, but there's like a rimming scene in Not So Sincerely Yours. And I remember writing that, being like, when I was all said and done, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I just wrote that. And I remember sending it out to my betas, and they were just like, that was really good, man. And I was like, oh, great. And then my narrator, Aaron Shedlock, who narrated that book, he prepared for the book, and he narrated the book, and then he messages me, and he was like, because he had read my previous work where it's not I think Not So Sincerely Yours is pretty explicit, and he was just like, you just really went there with that book, didn't you? And I was just like, oh gosh, did I do it wrong or something? I mean, so I don't know, I'm always so paranoid about it.
Not for those characters. It was perfect for those characters.
Yeah.
Well,
it's completely understandable. Sorry, go ahead.
I gotta go.
Susie's got to go pick up Kenzie. So
I'm sorry.
Say bye to Susie.
No, I'm sorry. I'm so chatty.
No, you're fine.
Chatty.
Bye, guys.
Bye, honey.
Bye, sweetie.
Bye, Susie.
What I was saying is just keep doing what you're doing. Seriously, your writing is beautiful. Your storytelling is perfect. So
thank you.
Don't overthink.
And anytime you need the counseling side of the Stalker Sisters, just drop into our DMs, and we'll work you through it.
We can always hop onto Discord or whatever and have a powwow.
Zoom and talk things through, and
absolutely.
Sometimes we
That's
take
awesome.
for granted that there's this community,
Mm-hmm.
but writing is a very lonely thing.
Mm-hmm.
When you're in your own head and you're dealing with the characters and you're trying to get their story out, it becomes a very solitary effort. And there's a community that's more than willing to sit here with you and listen to you say, and I know you're going through a lot of things with, we deal with things with personal lives, and we deal with things with kids and families and situations, and it might be just very, very triggering, where it's like, I got to step back for a little bit from this, or even just exhaustion kind of kicks in sometimes, and you're like, I just don't want to. And I know we've had this discussion before, me with you, and me with Ron and with Julie, and it's like, sometimes the only timeline you have to pay attention to is your own, and everybody else will wait. Because when you try to rush and force something, it's not going to be what you want, and you're going to write 30,000 words and then look at it and go, the fuck was that? And then toss it when you could have been just, taking a walk in the sunshine, or
Right.
some
And that's why
authors.
I haven't written in a while. I can't write. My kids are coming home, by the way, so you might hear them. But oh, hi. My writing is very linear and I have to write the way I write. And so when I can't write, I can't force it. So I've been writing this chapter, chapter 3 of the next book for, I think, since Charm City. And I just needed to step away from it for a minute because it is a very heavy book. It deals with a lot of things from my past. And so and then adding to that, I'm going through a little bit of depression right now. So it's been really hard to find the words I need to put on paper. And that's also hard because then you're like, oh my God, am I ever going to write again? Am I broken? Am I ever going to find the things? So last night I wrote a little bit and it was really good. And I got to the point now where I'm just like, you know what? It's okay. You don't have to finish a chapter as long as you put words on paper and they're words that you like, even if it's 3 sentences, then it's 3 sentences, So
Mhm.
3.
And that's, you know what? It's still a
Yeah.
step closer than you were. And
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
if you decide that it's not what you wanted, it's a step. A
Right.
decision that you don't like something is just as good as a decision that you do, because you know what you don't
Right.
want there. And,
Right.
some writers have to work through their writer's block. I know Avery has said this before, that when she hits writer's block, she just sits down and writes, even if it's gibberish, just so that she
Yeah.
knows she's writing something. And
Right.
some writers, I think, Freya Barker, I think, posted about this a couple days ago, where she's like, I'm just putting it down and I'm going to take a walk because I know
That's
need
what I
to be
have to do.
outside and away from it. And
Mhm.
eventually you figure out what works. And in some situations, this might work. And in some situations, that might work.
Right.
But
And sometimes you just need to have that conversation that says, I know that I'm putting too much of me on the page, so I need to just dump this someplace.
Right.
And knowing that you've got a safe space to do that is priceless.
Mhm.
My stalker sisters get all kinds of stuff. I'm doing this thing and I gotta get rid of this thing. So here, let me puke it on the page for you. And then
Mhm.
I'll straighten it out and do something that everybody else can read later.
we're all good on the word vomit.
Right.
That is something
Yeah.
that none of us shy away
Yeah.
from. So you
Well,
will
it's-
never get judgment from us for
It's
dropping in and
therapy.
saying word vomit.
Oh, good.
This may not make any sense, but here it is.
Here it is.
Because
love
that was
it.
the last question was what's next, and I know that you're working on the next one in
Mhm.
Hemlock Harbor,
Mhm.
which so far is just it's so good. I know I've messaged you a couple of times with what you've said so
Mhm.
far is just it's deep and authentic, and
Mhm.
everything is everything you write is deep and authentic. I've never
Thank you.
read something you've written that I have felt hasn't come from a place of genuine authenticity, where you really
Mhm.
feel what you're writing. And
Right.
that's the same there. So what's the process for Hemlock Harbor? What's happening with that? Just in general, what's your overall thing?
Yeah. And I'll be quick about it so I can let you guys go. I'm so sorry. So I know, shush. So I'm writing I'm writing Ron and Carter's story right now. And Carter's story is really heavy. And it's hard because I haven't written super high angst in a long time. And so not that they're super high angst, but usually I write angst that's outside of the relationship and not in the relationship. And Meet Me in the Blue had a little bit of in the relationship angst, but nothing too crazy. But these guys are definitely a little bit higher angst. And so I'm writing them. And then this third book will be Ryan's book, which is kind of a little bit of a spoiler, but that's okay. Shush. My daughter's home now. I'm on Zoom, FYI. I'll be off in a minute. So then I think I'm gonna do Ryan's book will be the third book, and it will be him and a person who I will not say right now. I don't think. Actually it's okay. It's a nurse. And then I haven't decided if I want the fourth book to be part of this series or its own separate thing, because it's the Rook's brother who's a hockey player. And I have a hockey series that I started writing, and they were going to be complete standalones, like not interconnected. But then there's a character from Breakaway that I really wanted to give a story to. So Bryce is mentioned in Meet Me in the Blue with Rook's brother, and that's that their book will be either the fourth book of Hemlock Harbor or part of my rule book collection, which I think I might do that because they're not really going to be in Hemlock Harbor. So I feel like it makes more sense for them not to be part of that series. So yeah,
Still Amanda
that's what
verse.
my plans are. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I know, I just keep expanding it. But yeah, Ron and Carter, I'm excited for this. I think a part of the reason why I'm struggling a little bit with their story is I'm nervous because they're a little bit higher angst. And I know people don't super love that. And there's lots of things in here. Like Carter is a very flawed person and he makes very bad decisions. And I'm really nervous that people I have to like remember that. I just have to not worry about like I can't remember if it was you or my other friend who was like, stop writing bad reviews before they even come, before you even write the book, because I'm like, well, they're going to be like this, this, and this. And I just have to stop and just write the story. And if it's authentic, people will like it. And people are probably going to get mad at Carter, but they'll get over it. And if they don't, that's okay.
That was definitely another friend who said that, the review part, but I love that. I might have to steal that from them. But one thing that I have always said is when you're writing a character, you have to listen to what they tell you. And if you try to change their story, they're going to tell you you're wrong. And then it's not going to come
He
across
keeps telling me I'm wrong.
And
authentic.
And I don't know if if you consider your books your children too or not, but Khalil Gibran has our children, his dictate says that they come through us, but they're not from you. So when the story comes through, you have to let them go and do their thing, and you don't really own the end of that. I mean, you were saying that when you write a book and you put it out there, all of a sudden it doesn't belong to you anymore. But I think that's true. And it's if you I know I do, to look at your books as your children, the same thing has to be true, is that you're giving them life, but what they do with that life is entirely up to them.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And he keeps making really bad choices. Every time I sit down to plot it, he makes bad choices, and I'm just like, okay, well, we're just gonna roll with it, so it's fine.
And that's, some people need to make enough bad choices where they come around to bite them in the ass, and then they're like, oh, and there's an authenticity in that too, because some of us do the same thing.
Right.
So being
a
character,
we're all flawed in the end.
Right. Yep. And then, but that's sometimes I've come across characters in books where it's like, I don't know if I'm going to like this person. It's not my job to like them or not like them or have them changed because I don't like them. It's my job to read them and meet them where they are as the reader.
Right.
And say, this is their story. And thank you for bringing me along on this journey. And it's your job to tell their story. So yeah, sometimes we could be pissed at them, and that's okay. And sometimes we can let them make their own bed and let them lie in it. And yeah, it's okay.
I have to go, guys. I've got to get a child.
Did you want to do random?
Let's do 10
questions.
Let's do them quick. And then I'm out.
Quick. Yep. Quick. I gotta go too.
Julie, go.
Okay. Flip-flops or heels?
Flip-flops.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Beachfront house or mountain cabin?
Can I have a lake?
Mountain cabin has a lake.
Yes, absolutely.
Then lake. And beachfront if it's the Pacific Northwest.
Picky. Chocolate chip cookies or oatmeal raisin?
Oh, chocolate chip cookies.
Oh, thank God. I was going to have to disown you.
Rom-com or romantic suspense?
Say that one more time.
Rom-com or romantic suspense?
Romantic suspense.
Read the book or watch the movie?
Read the book.
City or country?
Country.
Mood reader or plan TBR?
Mood reader.
Coffee
or tea?
Tea.
Yes. Kindle or paperback?
Paperback.
Oh, okay. I like it. Amanda, thank you. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you
Yay.
so much.
Thank
See,
you
we
so
all
much.
survived. And if you haven't read Meet Me in the Blue yet, if you're watching this, go read it. Read all the things Amanda will put all the links up, and get the paperbacks. And then you're coming back to Charm next year.
Yes, I am.
Thank you again next year, if not sooner.
Okay.
And thank you for being there with us this year. And thank you for being here with us today and everything, all the good things. And I can't wait to read more.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Bye,
Bye,
guys.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.